From two dirty painters to multiple seven-figure business owners, I'm Redion.
And I'm Karmelo.
And I'll be giving you guys the insider secrets to take your trades business to the next level.
Crazy stories to proven strategies. Get ready to supercharge your business with us.
Welcome to the Dirty Painters Podcast.
Today's episode, we'll be talking with John Harlow, CEO of Tier 1 Pest Solutions here in Tampa Bay, about the commonalities and challenges you can find within the trades business. Thank you for coming.
All right, man. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the Dirty Painters.
Hell yeah, I'm pumped. Obviously, we've been talking for a little while about doing this. We always have phenomenal talks, you and I together, and with your brother as well. So we figure we get on here, and hopefully my objective today is to leave at least one person with something of value. So
Absolutely. Appreciate you having here, brother.
yeah, we've been hanging out. We've been swapping business ideas, strategies, and we met in the gym. Actually, we go to the same gym, and we're like-minded people. So I think we just gravitated towards each other and started forming a relationship, and now we're here.
So we connected over our whoops. We have the same.
That's right.
The same.
Well, you have them
You gotta track your sleep, man. It's
sleep.
important.
And also your stress. It's important for business owners to know when they're stressed.
Yeah. The thing needs an alarm though. It fucking starts going off when you're high stress. That's the next feature, I think.
All right, so let's, John, give us a little bit of background. How'd you get started? I know you're a former veteran. Thank you for your service. You're in the Marines. Thank you for your service, sir. So talk to us a little bit about where you started, how'd you get into the business, where you come from, all that.
Okay, I'll try to make this pretty expedited for you guys so we get to the stuff you care about. But for me, grew up in Boston, right outside of Boston, blue collar area, normal situation. You know, obviously we could dive deep into that another time, but yeah, joined the military, got out. I was doing property management up there, managing a few hundred units, and I ran a crew of guys. One of my guys had a friend in Texas who was selling pest control. He was phenomenal at it. He was a big guy in the business, but being from up north, I knew nothing about pest control, nothing about sales, pest control, nothing. I didn't even really smile much. I was a pretty serious guy up there. And when the guy on my team had an opportunity to go down and sell for him, he actually extended that invite to me. And my first reaction was, it's bullshit, mainly because I was told how much money you make selling pest control. It's a door-to-door job. It's a brutal job. But I was told you can make six figures your first year. And to me, that sounded like a fucking scam. So I said, look, you go down, do it, try it out. If you fail, I'll just hire you back. So there's no risk there, really. But as we get talking, I decided, I had learned what I needed to learn in the job that I was in, and I had hit a ceiling, and I don't like being complacent. I had learned the leasing, the construction, the HVAC, all that stuff that comes with property management in general. And my leadership had capped out as well. I only had a certain amount of guys. It wasn't going to grow. So I was at that spot where if I stayed, I would become complacent. And it's my biggest fear. So I said, hey, fuck it. I'm driving to Texas with you. Let's learn sales and let's sell some pest control. I did that.
In Texas?
That was in Dallas, Texas. I got there. I quit my job that day. I drove to Dallas. I met Brad, my now business partner, and he taught me to sell. He taught me how to knock doors, how to sell pest control, how to smile, the whole thing, right? And I excelled at it. I sold over 300 accounts my first summer within a few months, which is in pest control very good. Went back the next summer to sell with Brad again, helped him run the team that time. We recruited, ran the team, had another successful season. The following year, we came to Tampa and started the company. So I tried to squeeze that in to as small a portion as I can, but...
How long you guys been in Tampa in business?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. So you went from working for a pest control company, selling for them, to directly opening your own brand after one season.
That's right. We were. I'll tell you. To be honest, what was the catalyst for that? We were selling at that company, knocking doors, having great success. But I don't like being I don't like being told what to do. And the owner of the company, I wouldn't disparage him in any way. He was honest. He was fair with us. But we were actually knocking one day, Brad and I, and we had sent all the guys out, drawn them up area. We were managing the area, and him and I got out to knock. And he got a call from the owner of that company. And the owner was dissatisfied with some of the tactics that Brad was using on the doors. Now, I'm not going to say whether he was doing them or not, but the fact is we got our numbers, right? But the way he was talking to Brad, I didn't like. And then he automatically kind of threw me into that and said, hey, Jay, I know you're with Brad. Anything he's doing, I know you're doing too, or I know you're complicit in, right? Which to me is an unfair thing to say. I hadn't done anything. And I just didn't like the guy. So we walked to the car after the phone call, sat on a tailgate and said, hey, unfortunately, you know, we got to start our own company. So at that point, it was just a dream, but I take dreams very seriously, and it very soon formulated into a legitimate plan, which brought us here.
Why Tampa?
I just put my finger on the map, man. That was it. There was no, I mean, I could say market research, but the depth of that could be questioned. I like Texas. I like the values of Texas compared to the North, because I was in Texas when COVID happened. Boston shut down. I didn't like that. I was fortunate enough to be in Dallas, but everyone back home was telling me how bad it was. Shutting things down, the regulations and all that stuff. Fortunately, I didn't have to deal with that much in Dallas, and I wanted that same environment. The biggest drawback for Dallas was that they didn't have the ocean. I like the coast, I like seafood, and I like guns. Texas had the guns, but it didn't have the coast, didn't have the seafood. Tampa was up and coming. I figured let's try it out, so here we are.
Good choice. Sounds like about the same. We moved down here right around COVID time when Michigan was literally like a dictatorship. It was horrible.
Man. I bet.
We're getting fines just for working out, like working.
It's insanity.
It was so that's why like, okay, I have to pivot and find a place to go and start the business in case, you know, shit hits the fan up here.
Oh yeah.
Tell us a little bit of brand new business. You come to a brand new market. We talked a little bit about the challenges that we're having because nobody knew us in Tampa. How was the beginning?
I'll tell you what, the beginning was turbulent to say the least. When my biggest roadblock was I hated people saying, I don't know who the fuck you are. Because when we got here, we just knocked. You have to, right? To start a new company. The only way you're going to really jumpstart anything is to get out there and show your face. So we knocked for 6 months straight. Me, my crew that we brought down here. And we made sure that people knew who we are. That was the only way to really get established. But everybody would say, hey, knock on the door. Hey, I know you're using this company. Everybody already has pest control. Florida is the most saturated place in the country, probably in the world, for pest control companies. Anywhere. There's over 5,000 companies just in Florida. So you're knocking on their door saying, hey, I know you used Jimmy for fucking 30 years, but you got to switch to me because we're better. And they look at you like you got two heads, you know. Who the fuck are you? I don't care. Get out of here. So our goal was, okay, we need to eliminate that question. We have to start building a brand. At that point, the only resources we had was our time. We didn't have much money, so we just knocked. We got through it. But I mean, if you want to talk about challenges, we could do a whole podcast on that. But I mean, we've had.
So number one, brand awareness. That was your biggest challenge.
That was our biggest challenge. Besides, you know. Obviously, besides resources, we didn't have any money. Obviously, you know, every day you say, oh, if we had money, we could do this. If we had money, we could do that, which I really don't want to emphasize because you end up finding out that's not true at all. But at that beginning stage, you think every problem will just be solved if I had a little bit of money. And it's not true. You really don't need money. You need to be resourceful. You need to use what you have and be strategic, find ways to force multiply and stuff like that. But it was tough without money. I mean, we've had court-ordered evictions. We've had trucks repossessed. I had my sales guys living in my shop. And the first year, I mean, we were so low on money. We had to run a Thanksgiving food drive to collect food so that we could eat. It was that situation. So the classic grinded out entrepreneur bullshit. And it's tough, man. It's definitely a ride, you know?
Yeah, we've been to those situations too. In this podcast, a little side note, we talk a lot of shit about door knocking.
Good, man.
So we talk a lot of shit about door knocking, but you're living proof that you can actually bootstrap and start a business and get a cash flow without nobody knowing you. So there's no excuses pretty much. Even if you don't have money for marketing, paid media, paid ads, just go out there and grind, right?
Just grind it out, man. And I'll tell you what, there's no better foundation than knocking doors because it fortifies your mind. So I mean, if you can take rejection like that, no one can. It's a really tough job. If you can get door after door after door, just getting shit on, it really fortifies your mind into something that can handle tasks and challenges that come up later in the game.
Yeah, because a lot of salespeople out there, they can't take no or rejection. So
that's right. So they're not
crumble.
really salespeople, man.
That's so. Yeah, if you guys, especially brand new painting companies, you have no excuses. Just go out there and knock on doors, pretty much in any market. I know we talk shit about it, but
it works.
It works.
It sucks.
He's right here. He's talking about it.
It works, man.
And then you guys heard how he started, and now you're running a multiple seven-figure business with a huge fleet. Like, I was so impressed when I saw your fleet, your accounts, your crews, like your branding. That's the first time I was aware of your business. I got one of your ads. I was like, that's a good ad. It caught my attention. And then I started seeing your truck. You had a fully wrapped truck at the gym. So I was like, I'm going to talk to this guy. So how long was like the transition? You said you've been 2.5 years here. When was that changing moment that you're like, okay, now we're cruising, now we're crushing? Because it's not easy building a multiple seven-figure business in anything, especially in trades, especially in such a competitive business.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, man. I'm still waiting for that point. You know, we're growing. Like, that's been the weirdest duality for us, is through all the challenges, we've always grown. Every month, our revenue surpasses the prior month. No matter what we were dealing with, no matter what obstacles came up, we pivot, we fail, we pivot, we destroy those obstacles, but we've always increased our revenue, and we've always been growing. So it's kind of hard to gauge where it's like, okay, I guess the biggest difference is when you actually start cash flowing positive. And in pest control, you have to get creative with that. And we sell a subscription model. You're coming every few months and you're getting a small amount of money, but it builds up, right? So it's a subscription model. But the problem is you have to front load the money for the marketing for that, whether you're paying a door-to-door guy or your digital marketing. Say a lead, to close a lead, you have to spend $300, right? Well, the initial service for pest control, if you gave them a discount, let's say it's $100. So today, on an accrual basis, month to month, today we paid $300 to close the deal, but we only got $100. So now we're negative $200. Multiply that. Let's say we sell 400 deals in a month. Do the math on that. How do you operate in a negative cash flow environment where you don't have any money to begin with? That is the biggest obstacle for any service-based subscription model company that I'm sure some of your viewers can relate to. Is there's a cash conversion cycle that unless you go into debt to front load that cost, you have to figure out, okay, how can I get creative and look for different areas where I can bring in revenue to cover that cost until we regain that capital down the road, if that makes sense.
Got it. So LTV to CAC, your CAC in the beginning, your first contract doesn't really pay off for the customer acquisition cost.
Nope, not
so you
at
have
all.
to figure out, be creative with another maybe product to produce the
You
cash.
have to find some type of higher ticket cash flowing item that you can cover your ass with. Otherwise, you'll go underwater. And it sucks because the feeling is strange. You're growing, but every account, so you're seeing the sales, right? You're selling every month. You're closing the deals. The sales guys are pumped, right?
Yeah.
But every sale you make, you just went more negative in the cash flow. So you're like, are we winning here or are we losing? What do? I want my sales guys to sell more. And we've always excelled at sales. We came from sales. So we always sell. But the more you sell, the worse it gets. So that's really was our biggest obstacle. And you said, what was the point when I said, okay, we have momentum? Was the point where we realized how to cover that negative cash flow with higher ticket items so that we could last until we recovered that cash later.
Got it. Okay. Makes sense. Do you want to talk a little about your high tickets or?
Anything, pest control is pretty straightforward. Rodent, termite, stuff like that. It's
I don't know anything about pest control. I just know bugs.
Okay, so pest control is disgusting. Okay, it's rodents, termites, spiders, ants, all that stuff.
Snakes,
if you want to do them. See, for me, it doesn't make money. So for us, if it makes money, it makes sense. We sub out we don't even sub it out. We just give it to other guys.
Got it.
Gators, snakes, stuff like that. We don't want to deal with that. There's no money in it. We want subscription based, but in order to cover that, we had to use other verticals such as termite treatment, rodent exclusion. So an exclusion is when you have rodents in your house, right? They have to fucking get in there somehow. So there is an entryway somewhere in your house, the plumbing voids, the foundation, something's going on where they have access. So you go and you assess the situation, you analyze the house, and you basically show up to that house and seal up every single little spot on that house, which is a lot because a mouse can squeeze through a tiny little hole. So you're making that house airtight. That's an exclusion. Those are a couple $1,000 each. Termite work, a couple $1,000 each. And that cash flow enables you to cover.
So those are the big tickets that you were talking about.
Mainly, yes. There's other verticals if you want to get real deep into it, but those are the two main ones you want to access.
Like you get a deposit, you finish the job, you get paid right away.
Exactly.
And then the job closes.
The job closes, and you use any profit you had to fund the growth of the subscription services.
It's so this is where the money is at on pest control, or is it more on the high tickets?
There's companies that do both. You'll have a company that does $10 million a year, and they all basically only do roaches, rodents, and termite work, all high ticket, right? But where it struggles is you'll have a company that does $10 million a year in subscription, and that company will have a valuation probably 2 to 3 times the amount of that other company, because when you get acquired, they're looking at reoccurring contractual revenue. So we're always thinking long term, always thinking exit. Not that we plan on doing that anytime soon, but we build for that exit, so it's always based on subscription recurring revenue.
It's something similar that we're doing with CloudBooks with our subscription based. With painting is not as easy, but like with CloudBooks, that's our long-term plan.
And you're doing full financial suite with that, right?
Yes, sir.
That's awesome, man. That's so important.
Eventually, we want to get like a 5x, 10x multiplier just on the base of the subscriptions. You talked a little bit earlier about how when you started in sales, you didn't smile much. You're a pretty intimidating dude. You're big as fuck. How did you deal back then with rude customers, rejection, versus now that you're more of a seasoned business owner? You've been through the gutter, just dealing with people. How do you deal with those rude customers? Because I'll use myself for an example. When I was younger, I was very hot-headed, dude. I would curse them out. I would not take shit from anybody. Versus now, I'm more mellow. I let them get it all out. I don't create conflict. I just very chill.
Okay. So going from then to now. So then I would say I was, I'd get pissed off like anybody, right? I was a little bit younger than I am now. I was in my late 20s at the time. I'm 30 now. And, I don't like people being rude to me. The thing that would bother me is when you're on someone's door, they feel invincible. They're in another fucking realm for some reason, right? That's their safe space, and you're invading on that. So they'll say things to you on the door that they would never dream of saying to you in any other setting. It's mind-blowing the things people say to you. They'll pull guns on you. The dogs will bite you. It's insanity, right? I was fortunate nothing crazy ever happened to me. My guys wouldn't be so lucky. There was a lot of weird shit going on, but that's door to door. But I would get pissed off, man. I would let it get in my head. I never let it ruin my day. Fortunately, I had already, from my background, been a little bit more fortified mentally than most people, I would say, and I had the benefit of being older than most guys. But I would let it get to me, and you would be thinking about it later. You'd spend all night thinking about, this fucking guy. If I saw him here, I would have done this.
They were living rent-free in your head.
Exactly, all night, man. And it just you end up getting worn out by it, and you also realize that you try to humanize these people, where it's like, okay, you knocked on their door, right? Who knows what kind of day they were having? Did his mother just die? Did he just get some terrible news? Did he get laid off? And you show up, and obviously you're trying to sell, so you're not leaving easy, right? You're being pretty pushy, you're trying to get a sale. Because that's your job, right? But you never know what they're going through. So to take that personally when they don't even know you, it's naive in a sense. So you get over that. But I would say the difference now is I don't personally do a lot of customer-facing stuff now, but how the organization handles it is, you said rude and dissatisfied. So I figure generally the philosophy is if someone's being rude, we're going to assume it's because they're dissatisfied. we're also going to assume that they're dissatisfied probably because we did a shit job, right? I would say 90% of the time. The best way to navigate that approach is you take accountability, right? And you give them free shit, and for us, that works. That's 90%. There's the 10% of people who are going to suck, maybe lower, maybe 8 or 5%, who are always going to suck, but they still pay the bill, right? There's the people who suck and pay the bill, then there's the people who suck and don't pay the bill. Those people got to go. But the people who suck and still pay the bill, you just have to eat it. It's part of business, right? Because at the end of the day, who cares? You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter.
Money
it doesn't
still comes
fucking
in.
matter. They're paying their bill. If they're a little tough, we talk in the office about it all the time because someone will call in flipping out. Now, if you're rude to my office people, it's unacceptable, right? But if you're just a difficult customer and you pay, water under the bridge, man.
Got it. Yeah, we're the same way. Give free shit, refunds.
Here you go. Here you go.
What can we do to make you happy?
And you know what? They're the best customers a lot of times after that, man.
Yeah.
They'll refer you out. It just takes a little, sometimes you got to give.
That's so true.
receive.
That job that I told you that our crews were at the same house, the lady actually just referred us to one of her customers.
No shit, huh?
Yeah. I was like, Carmelo, are you serious? He's like,
That works, huh?
I was like, no fucking way. He's like, yeah. She referred us to a really big project.
All right. So that first year, starting a new business, what was your offer, or what did you say to your potential customers to make the switch from such a competitive industry like pest control?
From Jimmy to tier 1.
From Jimmy to tier 1.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough to differentiate yourself. It has to be, you use a lot of visual clues, essentially, right? In pest control, you're looking at the house. When you're walking up, you're analyzing the property. You have to be super aware. Is there an anthill? You have to find ammo to use. Is there an anthill? Is there a wasp nest on the house? Is there a spider web, right? And the benefit of being in pest control and probably home services in general is most people fucking suck. They do a terrible job. Most companies are bad. They suck. They might start out good, like everybody starts out good. They have that dream, that vision, but they get to a certain point, they get complacent, and the vision is not maintained through the lower tiers of the ranks. So fortunately, it's pretty easy to take customers in that sense, but actually convincing them to make that switch in the moment, you have to offer an incredible deal. So with us, we are going to spend more time and use better product. That's our pitch, right? The average service on a pest control home is 10 to 15 minutes. We were promising 45, 30 to 45. Initial service could be an hour long, but after that, 30 minutes. So we're spending more time. And then the products. So most companies are going to do a quick splash and dash around the base, in and out. We're going to do from the front curb, we're going to granulate the entire yard, sweep the entire eaves, any spider webs in your pool cage, stuff like that, we're going to get that down. That's the toughest part of pest control, is sweeping the home, but it's also the most visual. It's what the customer likes the most. They want to see that their home is pest-free. The yard, they know you treated it, but you can't really see it. The inside's the same way. You treat it, you spray the base, none of that's really visual. The visual aspect is sweeping those spider webs down, getting those dirt daubers out of the corners and making the home look clean. It's their biggest investment. They want to keep it clean. So if you can get those visual clues and use that as ammo, it's a lot easier to make the sale. You can cheap out. I'm sure you guys know with paint, man, you can cheap out in any industry, right? And you can crank profits. In pest control, dude, you can crank profits 70% if you want to. But because the product is fucking expensive. But when you use the right stuff, you get that retention with the customers, you get loyal customers, and it pays out in the long run.
We both say business is like war. What are some principles that you took from your military career, things that you learned there, and you implemented them in business?
It's a very open-ended question. We could go anywhere with that.
Give me like two.
Two, okay. I would say,
besides embrace the suck that David Goggins.
Yeah, I mean, you can implement that anywhere. But I would say I've learned more than my time in the military. I've learned more from studying wars of the past, battles of the past. And I love Napoleon. His principle of decentralized command is phenomenal. Basically, projecting that vision that you have as the entrepreneur into the minds of your managers so that they can make the decisions without you around. that's really going to let you have that flexibility to work fast. That's where the big companies, you'll see a huge company in the market start getting killed by a little company because they're flexible. They can move fast. They're still entrepreneurial and they can pivot quick. Whereas at a big organization, stuff has to go all the way up in the bureaucracy to make a decision. And the people down below don't have any say in the matter. So if you can empower your managers to make the decisions for you, but it has to align with your vision, you'll pivot a lot quicker. They don't always need to call you. You're able to delegate much more efficiently. So I would say decentralized commander's intent, just letting them know your vision.
How about discipline, and then how everybody is very methodical in the military. They have their SOPs. Everybody follows the same schedule, same things. They have everything is pretty much like a blueprint for you to follow. Mm-hmm. You run a pretty large organization, like I said, huge fleet, a lot of employees. How important do you think that discipline that you learned back in the military is important to translate into a big organization like that?
I think it's pivotal. I think discipline's important. I would even go further to say it's more leans on accountability, right? Because as you guys know, in a service-based industry, typically you're outbound. You're sending trucks out to a home. These guys are their own supervisors, right? Essentially, what they do, you're not necessarily going to see it all the time. So building a culture of accountability where it's not about the job, it's about the man, right? They say a boy does what he wants, a man does what needs to be done, right? And when a guy shows up to a job, is he the type of guy that's going to do the right thing and follow through, or is he the type of guy, his character, where he's going to cut corners? So it comes down to the man instead of the organization, but you need to recruit guys that share that same level of accountability and maintain that culture so that you can weed out the lazy ones pretty quick.
How important is from the leadership, like yourself, you're the leader of the company, your partners, to instill that culture and then the SOPs for everybody to follow, and then put it in writing and be like, hey guys, this is how we do things here in Tier 1 Pest Control. These are SOPs. Those are non-negotiables. How important is it?
It's the difference between going under and being successful, man. I mean, you're repeating yourself constantly. That's all it is every week you're getting up there, you're having a meeting and you're instilling that in the guys. You don't want to do it because it's the same shit you said. It's essentially the same shit you said last week, but you have to say it week after week after week after week. And you also have to, unfortunately, sometimes have public executions, right? Where you fire guys, not necessarily, you don't embarrass the guys or anything, but when they leave, I believe in transparency within my organization. You have to use that example and show guys, hey, we really like this. I had to fire one of my top guys, right? I didn't like, he was doing some certain things that were unethical, but he was the top performing tech we had. We had to let him go, but you have to go to the rest of the men and say, hey, we really like this guy. You guys know we really like this guy, but our standards come above our emotions. It doesn't matter if we like you. I'd rather have a guy we hate that takes accountability and does what he needs to do. We don't need to like each other. We just have to get the fucking job done.
Yep. And follows the culture.
That's it, man.
And doesn't shy away from the culture. I would like to talk a little bit about your financials of the business, how you keep track of everything. As all of you know now, these episodes are sponsored by KLOUDBOOKS, and we're bringing successful entrepreneurs. And then, like Jay said, you have to repeat yourself, and we repeat ourselves every week. The most important part of your business is knowing your numbers, your money in, your money out. So I want to hear from other successful business owners in the trades, how important, how vital is in their business to track their financials and knowing money in, money out, and staying on top of things.
Well, as you guys know, I mean, you run a company specifically dedicated to watching the money. Every cent counts, and like I was telling you before, we had no money. You have to watch every cent. And when you get into you asked about challenges earlier, right? And I talked a little bit about the tangible challenges, the lack of resources, stuff like that. But you also run into the psychological challenges that are a bigger battle than the tangible ones. And your number one psychological battle you're going to run into as an entrepreneur is that you realize you're drastically unqualified to do the job, right? It's 90% of the time. I mean, we're going to be speaking to people. This is their first business. Most guys haven't done this multiple times. This is brand new to you. And it's psychologically challenging because you have your company, your organization, you have your team, and they're looking forward, right? And they're seeing you. So they see your back and you're moving forward, and wherever you pivot, they follow you. Whenever you take a turn, they're following you. But you, as the CEO, the entrepreneur in front, you're looking forward, and you essentially see a blank space, right? There's nothing there. And to go a step further, you may see a minefield over here. You might see a cliff to walk off over here. And then you notice it's all covered in fog too. So you don't know where the fuck you're going. But you have to go and you have to pivot so that your team doesn't fall, right? You have to take those hits. You also have to be realistic and realize that you can't learn every element of the business. So you say, what am I the best at? Well, if you're the CEO, you need strategy, you need accountability, and you need delegation. None of those words include financials, okay? So 90% of the time, probably more than that, you're not gonna be an astute financial student, right? So the first thing you wanna do is outsource that. Get it out of your fucking, off your desk and put it in a professional's hands, right? Someone that knows the industry, knows the numbers, and more importantly, not only knows what you're doing today, but is able to project in the future what you need to do, what you're supposed to do, and have that finger on the pulse of that business, because the money is the blood, right? If you start bleeding out, you're gonna fucking die, and you're gonna die quick, probably before you even realize it, right? You could go under like that. So if you don't have someone who knows what they're doing, watching that stuff, when you're trying to navigate this path, this insane empty void in front of you, you're gonna run into quite a bit of challenges very quickly.
That's number one. We always talk about delegation, especially if you're a business owner, you're trying to juggle multiple things. How important is, though, for you as the CEO, business owner, to understand those reports that a professional is delivering to you whenever they're delivering them to you?
It's essential. I mean, you're doing a disservice and disrespecting your team if you don't, because again, it's your job to lead them. How are you going to lead them blind, right? If there's any map at all, it's that fucking P&L or that earnings report or that monthly sales report. Beyond just the financials, just numbers in a broad sense. You have to have an audit. I know you guys were saying he checks it daily, right? Twice a day. Yeah. You have to be obsessed with the numbers. It doesn't matter if it's accounts receivable, if it's sales, if it's number of, for instance, with pest control, if we have routes. Every guy has a route, and we do touch-ups. We do unlimited free services for anybody who wants it, right? But those are unpaid services. So every week we need to know how many of those unpaid services we did, how much of those routes did we not get paid for? So we have a percentage, and we have to keep it below a certain threshold. But what if you don't fucking check that?
Yeah.
Right? And you're paying the guys to go do it. You're operating blind. So if I could recommend anything, it's number one, get a professional, use a service for the financials. Number two, learn how to view it, at least in a rudimentary sense at first. You know top line, you know bottom line, you can recognize expenses, you can see your liabilities and just get a basic sense. And again, this is all stuff you can learn with a quick YouTube video now. Yep. It's not tough. And if you have a good service like Redion's, I'm sure he'll give you the clarity you need. And
we have at least 20 episodes talking about financial terms that you need to know as any business owner. Even like marketing, you have to, even if you're not a master expert marketer, you still need to understand the terms of the agency that's delivering, all your KPIs, the data, whatever it might be. You have to know the lingo pretty much.
So far in my business, I don't know a person until we've had them. So they can do a phenomenal interview, right? They can say all the right shit, but until you've seen their work for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks or a month, until they feel like you're not really watching, you really don't fucking know anybody. So I'm still trying to learn that, and maybe you guys can
we were talking about it last time we hanged out, about the OKRs and KPIs. It's a process.
It's a huge process. I'm hoping you guys can, continue giving me insight on that, because right now we hire real slow and we fire real fucking fast, man. So I'm still navigating that one.
It's a process, especially like I know we talked about you're opening up new locations. It's a struggle in the beginning until you have that. It's pretty much like dating. You have to be able to read a person really fast and kind of like date them in the beginning. Then depends on what their tendencies
data you get
are,
on that?
depends on how they react, then you can tell. It's a process though.
It's tough, man. It's tough. And that's what is that? That's the only real problem in business.
That's where the OKRs will come in place. Will
It's
help
everything.
you.
If you find the right people, everything else is done.
Exactly, because you cannot grow a business without the right people. And we talked about a lot. It's
Right, man.
people are like toxic, cancerous. They can bring you down. Even like a bad salesperson can bring the whole sales team down, or a bad painter can bring the whole crew down. And next thing you know, A1 producing crew just fucking sucks
By one guy.
By one guy.
And you know what? There's something I want to touch on there as well, and it's a lesson that I learned recently is when you're ambitious like all of us are, you see potential in people and you say, okay, I see this guy. I know he could be this. He's not yet, right? But I know if he has the tools needed to become this, and you want to empower him because you're so delusionally optimistic all the time as an entrepreneur. You think everybody has the vision. They want it's big success, just like you, right? And I've had to realize that I've elevated people and pushed people into management positions that they really are not qualified for. They don't keep up with the growth, and they should have stayed back where they were and been happy, but it was my fault for pushing them into a higher role that they didn't really deserve, right? Because I see the potential, but you can't force that potential out of them. It's like we had a scenario at the shop the other day, and I had to tell my business partner, Brad, because, you know, it was kind of like an analogy where you have a $20 bill, right? I hand you a $20 bill and you scream at that $20 bill all day, scream at it, yell at it, stomp on it, and tell it to become a $100 bill. It's not going to become a $100 bill. It's just $20 bill, and it's going to stay like that. So I've had to recognize that not everybody has that vision, that thirst for more. And unfortunately, if you push them too hard, you'll end up putting them in a managerial position, and it's very hard to demote people. You'll have to let that person go eventually when you should have just kept them down here and they'd be a happy employee.
Yeah.
So that's
a lot of times, for example, one example we see with our organization is if a person is good in sales and they crush sales, and then next thing you know, you upgrade them to a sales manager.
brutal, man.
They usually flop. And then once you upgrade them to a sales manager, it's hard to be like, hey, guess what? You're going back to selling because you fucking suck at running the team. And then their performance will change.
So now what do you do? You got to let them go.
You gotta let them go.
Now you lost a great sales guy.
Yep.
Man.
So it's the same for every position. It's if somebody's good at something, just let them be good at what they're good at, and then find a specialist on what they excel for the position that you're trying to fill in any position within the organization. That's why a lot of times we try to, like a great crew leader or a great painter, we try to upgrade them to sales.
Yeah.
It doesn't really work well.
It's strange, man. And you know they could do it.
They could
That's
crush
the
it.
That's the most torturous process, man, because you're like, fuck. You're at the guy. You're like, dude, come on, man, come on. And you realize, like, you have to approach employees or any member of your team with basically, what do you want? Not what do I want, right? What do you want out of life? And ask them, what do you want out of life? And occasionally they'll lie. And occasionally they'll tell you these big ambitious goals just to satisfy your ambition because they know what you want. But if they're honest and they tell you, hey, man, I just want to make 80 grand a year, I want to manage, then don't put your dreams onto them, you know?
We've done that mistakes many times. We were trying to go fast with the wrong people, and they were telling us what we wanted to hear.
Yep.
Like, oh, we're going to crush it. They're on board. And next thing you know, the performance is just like, I'm like, Karmelo, what the fuck are we doing?
It's brutal, man.
We're running. We have the wrong people, man. We're trying to go to war with fucking minions.
And then it just drags you down.
I need Transformers. I need like Godzilla or something to go to war.
And you got so much weight you're carrying around.
It's tough. It's tough. What's the vision for Tier 1 pest control? Besides, you know, you said a little bit, your goal is to exit eventually or have that big valuation. Where do you see your business in the next 3 years?
The next 3 years will be statewide. So we're going to circle the coast of Florida. The coast is really obviously where the money's at, where the majority of the population's at. We're just going for massive growth, man. Absolutely massive growth. I'm a risk it all type of guy. Just keep going, foot on the pedal. We spend every fucking dollar we make. We put it back in the company. We're going big, and we're not exiting until we're at a 9-figure valuation. So that's looking like it's going to be a 5 to 10 year process. Hopefully around the seven mark from now. But the dream is huge. The dream is massive.
You guys have a good solid plan?
We got a phenomenal plan, man. And it's unraveling as we speak. It's great, man. Like you, I'm trying to, you guys are already a bigger geographic region than us. And we're trying to catch up with you guys, man.
You guys hear how important it is to have a plan. You can speak it, you can talk all about it, but if you don't have a plan for where you're trying to go, you're going to be drifting aimlessly pretty much.
Especially when you talk to real serious guys like you guys, a business guy, when you're like, oh, I want to do this. I want to have a fucking private jet and a yacht. And you're like, okay, cool. How are you going to do it? And they're like, well, I'm just going to,
Manifest it.
Yeah, exactly. Manifest it. I'm like, okay, take two guys, right? Say we're both on the same path. You sit there and manifest the fucking thing, and I go out and work every day, all day, right? When I reach my goal, what are they gonna? They're gonna say I manifested it, right?
Yep.
But I just fucking worked.
Yeah.
So what's the point? I don't see it. Get up and fucking work. Now, if you could mix some manifestation in, if that's what gets you going, cool. But getting up and we were talking about challenges earlier, man. It's like, when you're facing eviction and your trucks are getting repoed and you got guys living in a shop and you can't even afford food, how do you keep going? You just show up the next fucking day and you remain radically positive, delusionally optimistic, and you just keep fucking rolling, man. And where manifestation fits in, I haven't found yet. So
go out there and do shit.
It's work, man.
I hear it all the time, man. That's why I was talking to you earlier. I don't consult anymore, like lower tier, because they talk about, I want to have the biggest painting company. I want to have 10 crews. I want to have this. And next thing you know, they work 5 days a week. At 5 o'clock, they clean up their tools, and then they go and chill. I'm like, dude, I know you say you want to have the biggest painting company, but you don't do the things that you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. You have to work 100 hours a week. And you have to be on the field and then do the marketing, sales, build out the CRM. That's why, like, the manifesting or whatever bullshit they call it, I see it all the time. All these painters, they talk about it. I want to have this, I want to have that. And then they just don't take action.
Where's the roadmap, man?
There's no roadmap.
There's no roadmap. And they say, hey, I want to get to 10 million. Okay, do you know what 10 million looks like? Do you know what the revenue breakdown is? Do you know what the profit is? What does, if your company was at 10 million, what would it look like on a balance sheet? What would it look like numbers-wise, manpower,
How
HR?
many projects?
Exactly. Do you even know what that is? Or are you just spewing some bullshit number because you saw a guy driving a Lambo and you wanted one too?
Yeah, that's why we ruined people a little bit with showing our success and all the nice stuff, because everybody thinks it's so easy, but they don't see the work that goes behind that.
It's so hard, man.
I tell people, like, dude, me and my brother for like 5 years, we took no vacation, we did nothing, we're just busting our ass.
There was no, takes, right?
There was no manifesting, there was nothing. It was just like pure fucking hard work.
And you're still doing it.
Oh,
still doing it, bro.
It's Sunday today, and we're here recording podcasts, and then we're going to work. So we don't even take weekends off right now.
No, you can't, man. I was sitting at one of my friends texted me today, hey, what are you doing today? Me and my girl are going to get dinner. I'm like, dude, I'm sitting at the fucking shop. Sunday's great because no one's at my shop at the office. So it's quiet and I can plan, right? I'm like, go to dinner, man. Like, I got a fucking massive expansion coming up. I got all these issues, man. You get over what? There's so many issues. If you really audit your business or your company or yourself when you look in the mirror, there's so many fucking problems to fix at all times that I get it. You got to maybe go dinner and fucking let the steam out. I don't know. I don't really need any of that. You can't do 5 days a week or even 6 days a week.
Or 40 hours a week.
40 hours or it's just fucking mind-blowing. Yeah. That they, if you want what other people don't have, you got to be willing to do what they won't fucking do, man.
Yeah, you couldn't have said better, man. Awesome. I appreciate all the value you just gave us. All right, guys. So we want to thank John for coming to the Dirty Painters podcast and giving us all his value. No matter what business you're in, I'm sure you can get a little golden nugget and apply it in your daily life.
Hell yeah. Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely.
I look forward to continuing this relationship, man.
Thank you. Pleasure
Oh,
having
yeah.
you.
Sir. All right, guys. So this will wrap up this episode of the Dirty Painters podcast.
Be sure to follow our business on Instagram at Olympian Painting. Also our personal pages, Olympian_Redion, Olympian_Karmelo. Follow Tier 1 Pest Solutions as well, and keep up with the episodes on the Dirty Painters podcast.
And guys, if you like this episode, be sure to share it with a fellow painter or tradie. Until next time, this is Redion
And I'm Karmelo.
signing off from Dirty Painters podcast.
Take care.
Thank you, guys.